does God see the world? What does God think about politics or civic engagement? In the spiritual exercises, St. Ignatius of Loyola includes a prayer exercise in which the person imagines being with the Trinity, looking at the world, seeing humanity with all of their struggles, joys, challenges, and hopes. And in the midst of this whole variety of human experiences, the Trinity decides to send one of themselves to earth to work for the redemption of the human race. God sees what is going on in the world, and how does God respond? By choosing to get involved, as fully human in Jesus Christ. God chooses to get involved. Our world is certainly still full of struggles, joys, challenges, and hopes. Honestly, sometimes it's easier to focus on these struggles and challenges, the darkness, the brokenness. I read the news each morning and read accounts of children in cages, cities plagued by violence, mass shootings, hate crimes, all varieties of discrimination, and so very many human lives being treated as disposable or inconvenient. But that's not all I see. And more importantly, that's not all that God sees. I also see all of us gathered here this weekend. And so what are we to do in the face of the profound challenges and struggles in the world around us? What does it mean to be faithfully, civically engaged at our point in history? A fundamental truth of democracy is that decisions are made by those who show up. If you want to see change, you need to show up. For those who are able, vote. You must vote. No excuses, no qualifiers. Vote. But I know some of you here can't vote, but you still have a ton to offer to our civic life. So how do all of us engage that? As people immersed in the Ignatian tradition, our guiding principle must always be to return to the person of Jesus Christ. What did he do when faced with challenges, with chaos, with the reality of our beautiful and broken world? He got involved. But how so? First, he prayed. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Seeing politicians tweet, sending thoughts and prayers in the wake of an utterly preventable atrocity is insufficient and unsatisfying, to say the very least. But Jesus took time to pray for himself, for his community, and for the coming of the kingdom of God, where peace and justice reign. As people of faith, we should not discount the importance of prayer. One of my favorite quotations about prayer is from Pope Francis. He says, "You pray for the hungry, and then you feed them. That's how prayer works." And I think that's a good model for us. Do we take time to pray for our local, national, and global communities? And then do we take action? Second, Jesus wasn't afraid of having conversations with people who disagreed with him. So many of the political and religious authorities of his time thought he was some combination of threatening, crazy, and flat out wrong. But rather than blocking them on Twitter, he engaged them in conversation. That doesn't mean he backed down from his views or said these authorities were very fine people, but he stayed engaged for those hard conversations. So what does it mean for us to imitate Jesus in this way? First, be informed of what's going on. Read the news, both the good and the bad. There's no way of knowing how to respond if you don't know what's going on in the first place. This can be easy. Follow different news sources and journalists on social media. Find a good news podcast. Next, talk to your friends and family, your teachers, your classmates, your neighbors. Ask what they think about current events. Listen to their answers. And if you disagree, can you find some small bit of common ground and build from there? When I was in high school and first starting to get interested in politics, a family friend told me that he never voted, that he didn't think he knew enough about what was going on in the world, and didn't think his vote really mattered. I've never been terribly shy about sharing my opinions, so I told him if he wasn't going to bother casting a vote, I would be very happy to give him a list of candidates to go in and vote for on my behalf. To this day, whenever I'm back home visiting family, I see him every now and then, and he says that ever since I said that, he has voted in almost every single election. And there's nothing heroic or profound in what I did, but sometimes just a little word of encouragement can help people get more engaged. Third, and I think this point is particularly relevant for us here, Jesus never stopped working to build a more inclusive community. Everyone was welcome with Jesus. Fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes, Jews, Samaritans, Greeks, even the authorities he debated with. When Jesus saw someone who was on the margins of society, he sought to welcome them back into the community by healing them, forgiving them, or simply showing that they too were worthy of dignity and inclusion. So how do we promote that same dignity and inclusion in our own civic engagement? For me, the first question to ask is who I'm leaving out, who I'm excluding, whose voice I don't hear, whose voice I don't want to hear. This can be as concrete as looking at who we spend our time with. Do I hang out only with people who look and think like me? And these same questions can apply more broadly to how we engage current events in politics. Finally, be patient and stay hopeful. When I see some of the things our government is doing, I get so frustrated I feel like I could pull out what's left of my hair. But government isn't the devil. Politics isn't a broken, dirty process, and getting involved in our shared civic life is anything but a waste of time. Many good, decent, holy people spend huge parts of their lives working through these institutions, trying to make the world a better place. And I believe that God is working through them too. In the Incarnation, God saw what is going on in our world, the joys and the heartbreaks, the challenges and the opportunities. And what does God choose to do in response to all of this? God gets involved. We too can see endless